So tell me, how's that for your brand new striker? 4 goals, 1 game, and Darwin Nunez gets his Liverpool account opened with a penalty granted in a pre-season in which Liverpool ran away quite easy, convincing winners in the end. So how meaningful is that for the rest of Darwin's career? Well, who knows at this point? The guy's 22. Plenty of people were judging him on social media because, you know what? People wanted to elicit a reaction out of people. Either the satisfaction of thinking Liverpool have signed the dud, or the rage of thinking these guys don't even know. We are unsure ourselves as to what we might have bought because we don't have an awful lot to go on. And there's also that worry that, hey, what if he is panicking? What if his personality isn't suited to the Premier League? What if he isn't suited to the limelight? All those questions still exist. You can't score 4 goals in 1 game and suddenly go, yep, well, that's him decided as a good striker. Because frankly, the weird aspect is, this is the game where I could have picked the most holes in Darwin Nunez's game. I mean, that's bizarre to say as a Liverpool fan in the first place. And as a Liverpool fan, you always want to type back, oh, what do you think about that now then? Where are all those guys who were mocking earlier? Strangely, you probably could still make a bit of a blooper reel out of this game. But there's something quite encouraging about that, right? There's something encouraging about a young man who's just joined a squad, who clearly has people who care for him around him, who have people who are genuinely trying to look after him. Now he's entered the team, who are going to be telling him, don't snatch at that shot. When you run in this direction, try this. When you're doing X, do Z. That's great. There was always going to be a transitional time for this Liverpool team when trying to embed a brand new striker. Frankly, someone who's coming into one of the most important fulcrum positions within a Liverpool side. Yes, there were going to be some changes. And yes, when he's met people a couple of days ago, of course, there's going to be some sort of, oh, was I meant to go there? Right. Especially if you don't speak the same language, or at least the common language between the rest of the team. Translation still kind of seems like a thing that Liverpool are working on. They're translating all of these brand new tactics to an on-field system. But Darwin has shown that there are elements of his game which Liverpool will have wanted to buy into from day one, that Liverpool will have paid this money for. He has a right foot that's incredibly powerful. He has a shot that runs incredibly true. And when he is being instinctive through on goal, you've got a striker there. You've also got someone, by the way, who is good at integrating with the other players, who clearly has an idea as to how this Liverpool team are going to operate, and this Liverpool team has an idea as to how he is going to operate. So far, I've got to admit, it feels quite crude. There are a lot of runs that they're trying to get. There's a lot of time where you're trying to see him picking up certain kinds of space. And frankly, these guys are still getting their fitness. And frankly, when you play RB in a pre-season, what are you really expecting? Are you really expecting a competitive game, especially at this point in the season? Probably not. But the whole point is, you're meant to be raising whatever expectations, whatever hopes, fears, all those kind of things. You're meant to be working through all of those and working out what the blueprint is, where Darwin fits, how Darwin fits in. And frankly, what's weird about it is, he was playing on the pitch, probably without some of the players who would fit around him. But he did have Harvey Elliott, and he did have another young player in Fabio Carvalho just behind him. Both those guys looking to turn provider, getting into really key positions, and clearly trying to play to his strengths. Now, there are going to be games in the Premier League where it's a lot more physical, it's a lot harder, there's not so much space, teams are definitely going to be sitting back a lot more, and then we'll see other aspects of his game. Because I'd imagine we can still critique a lot of those other aspects about Liverpool as a whole, but specifically, if you buy a new striker for that price, you want someone who's going to help you pick a lock in a way. And we don't know what lock is going to be picked by Darwin just yet. We can see when there's plenty of space, when the game is a bit more open, then sure, he is capable of scoring goals. But if we're going to nitpick here, the penalty hit the goalkeeper's hands. Another shot should have been saved. And frankly, his best goal was his second. And I get it. There were other chances within that, and he will get more coaching. And you can even see Klopp conversing with the managers on the sideline, sort of going, you see, if we'd have done X, then he could have done this. Or if we'd have possibly tried that. Or, hey, he's still got a long way to go. That must be incredibly exciting as a coach. If I was a coach, I couldn't wait to get into training tomorrow with Darwin and say, see this? Try this. This position here. Hey, Salah, why don't you try going over there when he runs into this space? I'm sure that all of this has worked out. But frankly, the banter comes because we don't know what happens on the training ground. Because the people who are critiquing Liverpool watch even less Liverpool than you watch. And you watch even less Liverpool than all those coaches, all those players, and everyone else watches. Now, I get it. There was another narrative going around this side, and it could have been that his first season, he maybe Timo Werner'd himself or Benteke'd himself or any of those things. And you do not want your name to be synonymous with that list. Because whilst they're still quality players and they've always shown elements of that quality, their confidence was hugely knocked during the time when they were starting out in their career. The fledgling elements of breaking into the Premier League, well, they can knock your confidence. And I've seen some really stupid comments over the last few days of the Premier League is only for the strong or the Premier League is not for the weak. Yeah, this is high-end football, mate. Take your stupid analysis back to the classroom. No one cares if you've got this idea of the Premier League is only for the strong, son. We aren't on Pride Rock now. Having said that, maybe you can also be too analytical. Maybe we also got a little defensive over it because inside somewhere, Liverpool fans were worried they had signed someone who maybe wouldn't acclimatise very quickly. And maybe there is still some acclimatisation to do because this, again, is pre-season. There were some lovely flicks, tricks, everything else around Darwin, but Darwin still seemed quite crude, quite fundamental, and frankly, at times, quite right-footed. The touch with the other foot hasn't been great so far. There will be coaching to try to overcome that. They may also play in different ways to try to accommodate that. But I guarantee you that there are Premier League centre-backs looking at that right now and saying, we can pick on that. We can try and work him onto that foot. But that's the point where you, as Liverpool players, as a Liverpool team, try to go, okay, well, the system's going to work towards your favoured side. Which is also kind of interesting because that could open up other space for the likes of Salah. It could also mean that if Liverpool play him as some sort of inverted, drop deep centre forward, which isn't a false nine, but is some sort of weird, I'm going to make space for the other players, then that's also a good thing. We also saw that he hooks up very well with other players and other players are very willing to feed him. There was that lovely cushioned header from Fabio Carvalho over a defender, drop the shoulder and you're gone. The other aspect was Harvey Elliott looked like a facilitator. He also looked like a driver. He also looked like a weird sort of 8 at times, even though he was playing a little bit wider than that. Then if you look at that back line, Liverpool still, well, they've not had Alisson for a couple of games now. They've not had one of the key pieces in that back line. And they've still managed to rotate. They've still managed to show that when they start this starting 11, there is a, at least pre-season, solidity that we would gain some confidence from. It's a strange one though, because as much as we tried to write off pre-season a couple of days ago, we as a fan base now using it to rub that in other people's faces. Maybe because they used that set of evidence against us at one point. But let's not get too invested in that. As a fan base, you never want to get to the point where you're basically going, see, we told you this was the way it was and we knew it the whole time. Because there will be pride before a fall, because there will be times when, as a striker, he misses things. Because if you want to try and put pressure on a 22-year-old, it's when you don't have an encouraging environment for a young man to flourish. Now, I get it. There are other ways to encourage people. There are great moments to rub it in other people's faces. But this is a transitional season for Liverpool. This is still a season where they need to be competing. And it's strange because we are watching young players come through. Carvalho, Nunez, Harvey Elliott, maybe even Curtis Jones, who's had quite a look in pre-season. But these guys have to be the players for the now as well. And frankly, they're the 1% of the 1% that made it through to this very level. So there must be an element of belief from Jurgen Klopp. There must be an element of, these guys can do a job right now. We can win things with these players if we try to get the best out of them, which, of course, as a coaching staff, they will. I'm just interested to see where Nunez goes from here. Because, frankly, I think Klopp started with what he considers to be his strongest starting 11 at the beginning of the first half. That's a midfield of Fabinho, Thiago and Keita, which we've seen before, a front three of Diaz, Firmino, Salah, and a backline that always involved Virgil van Dijk, Andy Robertson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. I get it, like Adrian, but you get what I'm saying. The second half felt a bit more experimental, but I still liked it. And frankly, these are still guys getting minutes into their legs, minutes under their belts, and relationships are still being built in competitive games. Because as much as you can do stuff in training, it's great to get one over on people that you don't know, on people that you know have got the sole interest of keeping you out. Not to try to build your confidence, not to try to be a one-stop shop for your training methods, but literally to stop you, Darwin. It's going to be interesting to see whether he makes his Premier League debut on the first day of the season, whether Liverpool are going to give him that run out then, or whether they will go back to old faithful in Bobby Firmino, who is still a great player, nutmegs and all. It's also going to be interesting to see how he plays alongside the likes of Salah when Salah is combining with, say, Trent or Hendo or Keita on that side. It's also going to be interesting to see whether Liverpool deploy different formations based on whether Nunez plays or Firmino plays, and whether the opposition can work that out in that time. Darwin Nunez opens up a number of avenues for Liverpool, and it not only does that through his play, but also through the positions that accommodate him around him and the other players who Liverpool would play at the same time. This is an incredibly exciting time if you're a Liverpool fan, because a couple of weeks ago we were worried that Mane was leaving. Fabinho had those comments a few days ago saying, I was trying to convince him to stay, but it seems as if his mind was already made up a long time ago. And then there was that idea, well, wait, if Sadio Mane actually wanted to leave, but we wanted him to stay, what then? Did we really want Nunez? Were we ready to move on, or was this a panic buy? Were Manchester United right to sidestep him, which they didn't? Was anyone else right to not offer the same amount of money, which they didn't? It's interesting. You start to play mental games with yourself, especially in pre-season, because pre-season gives you so little evidence. And yet, having said that, there are Manchester United fans, Man City fans, Arsenal fans, Spurs fans, who are taking great solace in what is happening in pre-season. So why not live in the moment, enjoy it, post the highlights as much as you can, get out there and celebrate our brand new striker. Because you know what goes down really well? When you're a striker, you've scored the goals, you're getting celebrated by the fan base that you came to represent. Like I said, there's still a highlight reel of things that I would change for Darwin. But there's also a lot of encouraging factors. There's a lot of changes in shape. There's a lot of changes in formation. There are still other people who are getting used to brand new positions as well, don't forget. And weirdly, because he's taking all of this on his shoulders, he's diverting a lot away from what the rest of the team are doing right now and some of the changes in build-up play. It's an exciting time to be a Liverpool fan because there is a lot of variation, there are a lot of variables going on. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video to talk more pre-seasons, what's coming up next season, and there is so much more to come on this channel. Well, sure. See you guys later. Bye.